Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network. Welcome back to the show. Excited to have our designer. Yes, Ecology by Design. This is Teresa Rogerson. A lot of people call her Tree. You'll know why shortly because she really has a green thumb, knack for all of that with what she does, offering, ecological landscape design, consult, project management. She does it all, and honored to have her back here today. How are you?
Good. How are you, Jill?
I'm doing very well, and weather in New York is a bit cold. How is Asheville? That's where you are in North Carolina, right?
Correct. Yeah, it's cold. It's unseasonably cold here.
Oh my goodness. Well, I'm glad you're here. I got to see some of your beautiful work last week. And for people out there who are like, who's she talking to? Who's Tree? You may not know her yet, but you're going to get to know her. Go to ecobydesign.net and let me just have you start off by telling us a little bit about what it is that you do. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks. Well, I do landscape architecture, landscape design services from anything from just consulting on a la carte basis, just to help you see your property with new eyes or just get some input or maybe just talk about it with somebody, all the way to creating full blown plans for contractors and then into project management during the install.
And I mean, some of the work is beautiful. I urge people to go check it out because you really love increasing not only the beauty, but the utility of the space and the bottom line. And I know we're going to get into that in just a second, but continue telling us more about what you do.
Absolutely. Yeah. I feel like people have undervalued landscape design generally, just thinking that you kind of want to just put some grass down and mow it every weekend or pay somebody to mow it every weekend. And really the value of your real estate is all all of the within the bounds of your property borders. So people are just not using their land so much. There's outside spaces that could be utilized as outdoor living rooms. There's plenty of days where it's beautiful outside. There are sunsets to watch. There are sunrises. The moon goes up. And so my mission is to bring people outside to increase their property's bottom line while allowing them a healthier lifestyle simply by being outside,
Uh-huh.
and enjoying their outdoors from the inside out as
Mm.
well as from the outside when you're coming home or just driving by or just being in your yard.
I know we talked a lot about this last time. The landscape design sometimes is undervalued, right? And people do things I'm going to call haphazardly, right? Like I told you, I got the plan and I believe in the plan. You are so right. You need a plan, even though if you're not doing everything at once, you need to have a plan to how you're going to grow into that space and change things, whether it's, whether we're talking about your hardscapes, right? Like where you're going to be putting patios and furniture, but also the beautiful lush gardens and oh, that backyard barbecue. Oh, that's a pool house, right? So these are, things that people really should invest in the design aspect first. I know from experience and from friends who've done it the wrong way. So I just want to urge that people should be doing this. And now for today, you're saying that your real estate is the size of your property, but most of it is going unused and unappreciated. Tell us about this.
Absolutely. Well, let's talk about front yards. Most times you drive up to somebody's house and they have a front yard and then their house is sitting there. And if we think about someone who's built a house from scratch, they've got their lot, say the highway is right here, and they build their house close to the highway with this nothing little front yard. And then because they're so close to the highway, then they close all of their front shades to have privacy. And I'm thinking, you've got this whole lot. Why did you put the house close to the road, looking right out at it and trying to prevent people from looking in? And meanwhile, you've got this big piece of property. So because so many houses are already built, and that's fine, we'll do better next time we build or whatever. But I'm noticing that people's front yards are not really being used except as a hi, this is us. And usually it's just a couple of shrubs or something like that. When what if the front yard had, a patio, a welcoming patio with some shrubs around it so that when you're sitting in the chairs that you would naturally put on a patio to lounge outside, you're tucked in and just underneath, say, the 4 foot high shrub. So it's still private, but you could poke your head up over the shrub and see your neighbor walking by and be like, hi. So it's kind of this quasi-social intermediary between the world out there and your home inside. And it invites those kinds of
Yeah.
things that we do in the South where it's like a long goodbye and someone's going to kind of stand out on the stoop for a while you discuss a few things before leaving. Front yards have a lot of potential to bring beauty and utility to the house.
What other suggestions that we could be doing in the front of our homes?
Another thing that can be done is growing food in a beautiful way. A lot of people are afraid to grow food because they have associated it with being something messy or unkempt or, just too, I don't know, something too farmy for their upscale neighborhood. But do you know what can happen when you put fruit trees in a row or in a grid pattern so that they're beautifully gridded, or if you have squared off, nicely built wooden raised beds that as you drive by, you see them repeat. And it's just this nice rhythm, visual rhythm that maybe will definitely should complement the house. Um, so a lot of food can be grown in the front yard. Now, of course, we have to consider where the sun is and all of this, but so many people's yards are perfect for a little grove of fruit trees and some raised beds. And it's also, I have to say, it's a little bit of a gesture of abundance and sharing. You don't want people to come and pick all of your apples, but when the apple tree branches hang over the sidewalk and someone picks one, you know, that's that's probably okay. And it's just it's a beautiful way of offering.
I think that's beautiful. I'm thinking around my little community. I live on Long Island in New York, suburbs, but a lot of kids. So not really fancy homes, but I do have one neighbor who I appreciate what he has in front of his house. And he's got a little like patio with a garden and he's got it's a metal bench. I love it. And it's like rusty. So it like just look rustic. And it's like a half moon bench. And then he also got like the basketball net for the kids kind of like in front of it. So my kids are always sitting on this bench when they use his basketball net. But it's a cute little cozy area that my eye just goes to when I pull into my court. It's on the right. The net's there. Then you got the cozy area where the kids sit in the little patio. It's really cute. And I have nothing like that on my property. I am, I have grass, right? And then I have, my walkway and driveway and the stone patio, which I had done just a few years ago, and it's a beautiful wall. But so light outside, but there's no shrubs. I can't get it together. But I have one problem. I need your help. I didn't know till I moved in because there was grass over it, but then there was a big power outage and they came and they ripped up my whole front lawn. I'm the one in the court that has the big round, it looks like a sewer, but it's not. I guess it holds all the electric for like the neighborhood. So I had no idea when I moved in. I had it on my property because they were so clever to cover it with grass over the years, I guess. But now I have to keep it exposed. It wasn't supposed to be covered, and I didn't know. I got in trouble. Anyway, so now I have this ugly, big, round metal thing, and I'm like, it's an eyesore. What can I do to make that more beautiful? I mean, I guess it's safe to walk on, right? But can I put something on top of it, a big flower pot? I don't know, but I just don't. I'm worried about that. How could I make that more aesthetically pleasing? What would you do around an area that's like that? Just any suggestion?
Yeah, I mean, generally something plants in front of it and behind it with a little bit of height, and
Mm-hmm.
generally nothing on top of it because that means people have to move it and it's probably going to be heavier. And then if they break it, it's always tempting to want to throw a big planter on top of it or something, but generally it looks like you're trying to hide something. It's better to kind of
Well,
put something with.
I'm worried if I plant something in front of it, behind it, it's just going to get ripped up again next time. And they didn't do a nice job. They don't care. They're there for the power. So they'll just rip and throw apart everything in the vicinity. I'm like, don't laugh. I'm like, should I put like a fake AstroTurf circle on top of it? I don't know what to do.
Yeah, well, generally, if it's kind of a woody shrub that's of any size at all, it's
Mm.
somewhat resilient, and they will take the manhole cover off and access just with the perimeter that it is, if you're lucky. But I know what you mean. They're
Yeah.
busy folks. They've got a lot going, and they're not always careful because they're focused on their
Mm-hmm.
job.
Yeah, I get it. Well, what else? What are some of the things in front of the home that we could do? What about your place? What do you do? I mean, and being in your field, I don't know if it's rewarding that you're helping people change things, but does that make you want to come home and always change your space? Or do you get enough from working with other people? I feel like, yeah, oh, I like what I did on that person's property. Let me change that
Mhm.
to mine now.
Well, I've been doing this for 25 years, and wow, I don't know how, that's half my life. I don't know how it happened. And but I've just recently, for the first time, now I own a home, and I took my land and designed it from the bottom up. There was an outbuilding on it, but I incorporated that in. So finally, for the first time, it's like, oh no, this is going to be my fruit tree. And I'm I'm definitely now finally able to put some of the little design things that are signature type of moves into my own property, and I'm utilizing the hillsides that I have. I love hillsides. People people come to me all the time like, we just have this hillside, and I'm just like, awesome, because you if you have something flat, that's a certain amount of square footage, but when it becomes a hill, you can terrace and you can actually create almost more square footage with terracing. And also you can, the landscape is tilted up. Sometimes people are looking out of their window at the hillside thinking it's nothing. I'm like, no, the canvas, the painting is tilted up towards you. We can beautify that, and then it's coming at you and you can look at it from your window. So um yeah, my own property has been fun, and it's a little humbling as well, because you see how the choices you make are binding. And that's one reason it's so important to do good planning and to do planning, which a lot of people don't, because you want to make those mistakes on paper. You
Got
want to
it.
think
Mm-hmm.
through situations.
Got it. Well, what else do you want people to know about the work? And, if you still want to focus on how we're underusing our spaces.
Well, people, I think what happens is people look outside, especially, in the South, we things grow riotously. It's just like the forest just grows and grows, and then you have this just bunch of stuff, and people see that forest as kind of like a wall there and can't really see into it. And so, and now the wildfire fires in California. Now LA is a little different because that's an urban place, but the wildfires in the forests, so many of those are catching because the forests are packed full of stuff, um, tinderbox, branches and everything that hasn't been cleared. And so in the same way, people's properties, when they have any wooded areas at all, can just be like a wall that they don't go past. And so what I like to do is reach into those wooded areas and do some selective clearing, keep the big trees, pull out some of the underbrush selectively, or the small trees that aren't going to make it, and then you just are, psychologically as well as literally, you are expanding your usable footprint. And so then now the homeowner can walk into the woods. Say we put a path, just a mulch path, sometimes a gravel path or a concrete one if people are in wheelchairs. And then you roll into these open forested areas, and all of a sudden you're transported from what was your house with the wall of forest that begins to now this magic land that's all on your property. Now this is with people who have, maybe an acre. It doesn't take much, um, but even really small yards, people will still have this corner that's just kind of like, oh, we don't go over there. We don't know what's happening and there's just stuff. But once you really start carving into your property, you realize like, wow, my 6/10 of an acre there's so much going on. There's so much room here to live. So yeah,
Well,
get
I,
excited about that.
I see. And by the way, just for those new timers out there that aren't aware of your amazing expertise, and I know you've been, well, your own business you've had now since, was it 1999? You've been doing this for a while. Clearly, you have a lot of knowledge in this craft. Could you just share about about the background so people are aware of how much experience you do have?
Sure. In 1999 is when I actually went to the Conway School of Ecological Landscape Design in Western Massachusetts. It's a special school. It's a graduate program for masters in ecological landscape design. And then immediately after, we have real clients. We have actual clients in the program. And then from there, I went immediately to the Bay Area, California, and just hung my shingle out and just got whatever jobs I could and ended up working with some prominent Bay Area landscape architects and contractors and designed for them or helped them out in some way. And so, yeah, it's been just about 25 years of trusting what I'm seeing and working with people to better their lives through the lens or through the practice of landscape architecture. And one thing I would share is my professor at school in 1999 said landscape design is about everything. And, that's a big statement to say, but then when I thought about it, every single thing that happens on the planet, except for people flying in the air, and even then I would argue the airport has to be placed on the landscape. The landing strip has to be placed on the landscape in the way to best allow for landing of stuff with wind and all that. So everything we do on this planet, there's some landscape design going on, whether we are conscious of it or doing it well or not.
Let me ask about just one question I have. It may be silly, but it's in layman's terms because someone who does a lot of their own landscaping myself, a lot of people put mulch down, right? But then I hear there's bad things about mulch that we shouldn't be using certain types of mulch. What type of mulch type of things or wood chips do you like using to make things look beautiful? At one point, I was even trying to do the rubber. My neighbor says, "Oh, rubber's even worse." And I'm like, so I'm just confused about that aspect. If you can shed light on me, I'd appreciate it.
Sure. Mulch is great for helping the soil. It provides a blanket and moisture over the soil. And if you have dry, cracked clay, then the mulch will sit on top and microorganisms will start to crack into the clay and the exchange from nutrients up going down, and you'll create a softer, richer soil into which you can grow things. But as far as just your everyday kind of suburban world or just people wanting to mulch their gardens, double ground hardwood from a local dump. Like here in Asheville, we have the stump dump where when trees fall and whatever, we just went through Helene, we have the Hurricane Helene, we have a lot of trees and those trees are getting brought to the dump and they're grinding that up and creating mulch that people are buying. And it does help with erosion control. There are very few limitations with mulch. You can get the kind of mushroom spores that will bloom on some of the really green mulch, meaning freshly mulched and hadn't dried out yet. The stuff you'll buy at like Lowe's or Home Depot in bags, that's always nice and dried out. Sometimes it's just the bark, so it's expensive, but you can't go wrong with the entire tree ground up, double ground hardwood mulch that you can get in bulk. It's a lot more economical to buy it in bulk and have it delivered. Say it's $70 for a delivery. Well, that's better than buying all those plastic bags. And how many trips to the store does that take and all that. So the rubber mulch is an interesting idea for playgrounds and whatnot to reuse
Yeah. Yeah.
tires and stuff. And it's been used well. I find the rubber mat, it's like a mat lay down on playgrounds bottoms in public parks and whatnot, that's better because the individual pieces of rubber mulch will literally kind of bounce around and bounce out. And when the sun hits it, it's not that great. It kind of off gases and you kind of have that asphalty smell. So in gardens around people's houses, I'd say just go for wood mulch and not sweat all the worry about different kinds of mulch that you don't want, because I'm just not convinced any that's bad unless there is a bunch of, say, poison ivy or poison oak ground up, and you would expect to know that from someone selling it publicly.
Well, in your, field of work, and by the way, I'm on the website. I urge everyone to do the same. It's ecobydesign.net, right? And I love looking, at all your pictures. And we talked last week about these patios, these stones, these walkways, which are something that a little bit of your signature design, right? And is there something else that you wanted to share with us today about, your signature, look? And I'm on the website here as I push us aside. I see
Yeah.
these Santa Cruz mountain elevation, these steps going down, pebbles, stones, fire pits. What else would you say would sets you apart that makes you unique in this craft?
Well, I'll full circle back to what we talked about earlier about the front yards. I think what may set me apart with a lot of folks is the fact that I do concentrate on bringing utility to the front yard. And in the projects list, there's several of them in here. Um, Front yard privacy is a nice project to look at, where that's kind of where I, let's just say, discovered that idea, like, hey, let's really bring people out into the front yard. And then another project is entitled on in the list is Party in the Front. Um, and that took their property, their mountain property, from being kind of tucked up in the woods with just a car parked out front to now having a patio and a fire pit out front. And the car, all it had to do was move back 10 feet, no big deal. But now they have a gathering space where the trees are not towering over them, which we have
Hmm.
in the East Coast.
Yeah, and I love that. Now, room for growth, room to, come into a space. But let me just ask you, do sometimes after a while, though, things do get a little overgrown, and that's where you still can come in, right? And you know what to take out, what to replant, what to put in, right? Does that happen after a certain amount of years?
Sure, there's a balance. It's a dance between you want to install a landscape so that people can really enjoy it, you know, very soon after installation. You want a little bit of instant gratification. So I try to very slightly crowd the plantings with the understanding that in 5, 10 years time, that a few of those shrubs may be removed. But some people just don't want to wait 8 years. I mean, I have clients who are like, this is my last go around, or this is my last 10 years of really enjoying life. I mean, so they want a little bit of instant gratification, but it is typical for people to plant things too close to each other and then have to do a lot of rip out. But so I correct that by stepping it back with a very slight crowding for more instant gratification.
Well, also, just to point out in our last few minutes here together, ecobydesign.net and Teresa, known as Tree. By the way, who nicknamed you Tree? It just came over the years because of the work you're doing and your name. It's so cute.
No, it started a lot earlier than that. I'm about 6'3". So
God bless
yeah.
you.
And there was a basketball player, not well known to me, Tree Rollins, and the guy, the manager at the pizza shop I worked in, called me Tree Rollins because my
Uh,
name is Teresa Rogerson. He called me
hmm.
Tree Rollins, and my first day of college, I mentioned that to my new friends, and they all cracked up and laughed, and it stuck,
Oh, got it.
and
Well,
it worked. it
It,
works with
that's
my
great.
landscape
It
style.
so
Yes.
does. It's so beautiful. And God bless you. I wish I had height like that. I'm 5'6". I'm not bad. But my mom was like
No,
5 foot. So yeah, right. We all want what we don't have. You want to be tall, you want to be shorter, you want to be thinner, you want to be fatter. It's like we all have, right? Well,
everybody.
and how did you want to kind of leave off for today's show with our listeners about, how they should reach out and why they should reach out?
Well, people think, oh, you must not do anything in the winter. It's like, well, actually, winter is a great planning time because things take time. If anybody has done anything renovation style at their house, they know that waiting on contractors can be like worse than watching grass grow. So winter is the time for planning because when spring gets here and everything starts moving and growing, that's when we want to have our plan together. So now is a great time to call because we can have
And how
these
do
winter
we,
months.
that was good. And how do we call you?
You can dial me direct at 510-227-7804 or reach out on the website ecobydesign.net. There are various other ways. I'm on Houzz, Houzz. In fact, that's who hosts my website. But Houzz is fun to kind of one-stop shop everything about the home. So get some good ideas there. I'm on there through my business name, Ecology by Design.
Well, thank you so much. Pleasure having you here. And so, is it next week? Are we going to be talking a little bit more about curb appeal, lame lawn? Right, there's so much on our list to talk about: rain
Yeah.
garden, stormwater management, and
Let's do that.
all right, perfect. It's your show. You got it. I'm excited just to be here for the ride. I love meeting great people like yourself. And I also just want to point out something that you mentioned last in your notes. I don't know if we mentioned, but there's someone named Ralph Waldo Emerson. You said, do the things and you will have the power. I like
Yeah.
that. And you had a few other quotes there too. You had, this was, okay, hold on. The permaculture principle. What is that
Mhm.
exactly?
Um,
The problem is the
permaculture,
solution. Yeah, yeah, that's part of it.
right? Permaculture is a constructed word between permanent and agriculture, but then there's another connotation where culture being agriculture has made us in so much into the culture we are. Otherwise, we would just be hunting, gathering, moving around. And so the landscape architecture couldn't have happened without agriculture and culture putting us into place where we kind of stay and we can have our food growing out here. But the problem being the solution, people all the time come to me, they're like, I have this problem. There's this area here, there's this hill
Yeah,
and all that. It's like, okay, well, that's an opportunity to have terracing, to have pathways. So I always look at problems as solution.
got it. Well, thank you so much. I'm glad we're able to spend the
Okay.
time together here again today and learn more about each other. Thank you for that. And again, feel free to reach out. And again, you can go to the website, ecobydesign.net. And Teresa, enjoy the rest of your day. Stay warm, best you can.
Thanks, Jill.
Thank you
Nice talking
so
to
much.
you.
You too. Bye, Ann.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you now have even more ways to listen live. Check out the MyTuner Radio, online radio box, and Simple Radio apps on iOS and Android, or find us online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com or search Podcast Business News Network on streama.com and onlineradiobox.com/US. Take your podcast on the go and don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house.
And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned. This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.